Hey everyone, welcome. This is episode 5 of Warikoo Wednesday, season 2. And for this episode, let me start with a fun social experiment and play along. So let's say we are describing this lady called Neha. And here are the attributes of Neha. So Neha is 31 years of age. She's single. She's outspoken. She's extremely bright. And as a student, she majored in political science. When she was a student, she participated in a lot of political demonstrations, in a lot of anti-corruption demonstrations, and today she's working. My question to you is, which of these two sentences do you think is a higher likelihood? Option 1, that Neha is a salesperson, or option 2, Neha is a salesperson and an active feminist. Take your time to think about this. If you thought that Neha is a salesperson and an active feminist, which is quite likely, you're part of that 90% group that thought exactly the same way when this social experiment was first conducted by two researchers, Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky. And they called this lady Linda. What they were surprised by is that 90% of the people that they asked this question replied that Linda, or Neha in our case, was a salesperson and an active feminist, when it's actually the wrong answer. Because Neha, being a salesperson, already has a higher probability because it includes everyone who's a salesperson, including feminists. But the way that we describe Neha, the way that I tricked you into believing who she could be, you created a persona of Neha. You stereotyped her into most likely a feminist. And that's what we are all guilty of every single day. Before people walk into our lives, before they meet us, before they engage with us on a first basis, we already create a persona of that person. We fit them into buckets that fits into our worldview. We stereotype people. And that does not allow us to uncover and discover the true identity of the person that we engaged with. I remember, embarrassingly so, that when I was a school student, even when I was a college student, I used to think that everyone who drinks alcohol is a bad person, like fundamentally bad people. Because in my head, you drink alcohol, you lose control of your senses, you then start doing shit or saying shit that you didn't mean, and thus you're not in control of what you are, and thus you're not in control of your life. And for me, that was a bad thing. So suddenly, for something as trivial as drinking alcohol, I absolutely extrapolated it to being a bad person. And it didn't matter whether the person opposite me was a great son or a daughter, a great friend, a great professional, genuinely nice people. All that I thought was, you drink alcohol, I don't want to associate with you. End of chapter. And that is a really, really sad thing to really think about. And I'm not proud of who I was, but in this episode, if there's one thing that I would encourage you to think about, just the way that I did, and I'm glad I changed myself, was when you meet people for the first time, try and not fit them into buckets that just fits your worldview. See them for who they truly are after they've engaged with you. See them for what they genuinely mean, as against imposing your worldview on them or your impression of who they are onto themselves. Because if you start looking at people for who they are instead of who they could be, you start discovering completely new dimensions to everyone that you meet. With that message, I'll leave you with a wonderful week ahead, and I'll see you next week.